Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're taking a look at the Dread Knight, a Necromancer build based similar on the Death Knight from, several other games. But I do have to say a few things before I get started. This is a build that is made primarily for small group play, not... I wouldn't say necessarily in-game trial play, but it could do trials in normal and veteran mode, probably even hard mode if you really wanted to push, your group kind of thing. Not necessarily for difficulty, but for trying to get a better score, that kind of stuff. That's the way I see it. A lot of people might not, but hey, everyone's got their own opinion on what they like and don't like. So... the Dread Knight is loosely based on the World of Warcraft Death Knight, again, kind of following these paths and stuff, but it doesn't really kind of say, hey, look at me, I'm a Death Knight from World of Warcraft, because of the difference of skill setup and tools and all that stuff. And a disclaimer, remember, every build I release is just an idea. It's just a template for you to build towards or to build into yourself. You don't have to necessarily use the same traits, enchants, Mundus Stone, even gear setup, all that kind of stuff, CP setup. It is just here as a guide towards how you can play the game. So, let's go ahead and get started by taking a look at the build. We are Dark Elf Necromancer for this. Dark Elf happens to be probably the better option for the way this build plays, because it gets the extra magicka, the extra stamina, and the extra weapon spell damage. Plays really well into this conceptual setup. We have 14 points into health. This gives us 31k max health, 50 points into stamina, which gives us 29k max stamina. Now, as I said, this build is really good for 4-man group content. Great for arenas, so Dragon Star, Blackreach. Great for those. Great for normal play in, I'm trying to remember, the Asylum Sanctorium trial, because it's a very small, compact trial. And what I mean by it's great for that, it's great to play through it on the non-hard mode setup, so like going and defeating all the bosses individually instead of going into the boss room and fighting the hard mode. It's really good the other route. And as you can see, we have a 931 mag recovery, 409 health recovery, 568 stam recovery. We do have a 2636 weapon damage with 42% weapon critical, 1922 spell damage with 21% spell critical. We do have a 21k spell resist and a almost 21k physical resist. We do have the 1320 base crit resist, of course. Thief Mundus Stone, really good for the higher crit chance. You guys will understand why. Like I said, this is made to clear things, dungeons, 4-man content a little faster than trying to push your DPS and your healers and all that stuff to absurdity. We do have Major Savagery at all times, and then Tri-Stat Food. Alright, moving on to equipment. So, again, potions, tripods are going to be your better option here, because you are using all 3 stats. And then, of course, Tri-Stat Food, again, for that attribute combination. Alright, starting with our monster set. We are using the Nirnath set. This set is fantastic. I don't know why not very many people use it, especially when you want to get that extra direct kind of damage added to your group, and not just direct damage but area of effect damage, so it's really good for that. Next, we are running Hunting's Rage. So Nirnath adds 129 spell damage, 2-piece. When you deal direct damage, you have a 15% chance to summon a Lich Crystal that explodes after 2 seconds, dealing 11,835 magic damage to all enemies in a 4-meter radius. This effect can occur once every 3 seconds. Trust me, this thing goes off like crazy. Hunting's Rage, good for that, adding that crit capability and the high weapon damage. Plus, that little bit of max stamina really plays well into that idea of faster clear with a tank type character. So, the 2-piece weapon crit, 3-piece max stam, 4-piece weapon crit, 5-piece weapon damage, really good for that. And then, of course, moving on now to the final set, and this is one I really like for this, and that is the Undertakers. Now, Undertakers isn't one that you see widely used by a lot of tanks, and probably because of the way it works. So the 4-piece, the bonuses on this set, it does have 2 5-piece bonuses. So the first 2-piece bonus is 4% healing taken, 3-piece max health, 4-piece the 4% healing taken or done this time. So it increases not only healing taken but healing done as well. So it really plays into that kind of idea of like, hey, I'm gonna support my group with healing and myself. So it's not really a selfish set, it's more of a group like support set. The first 5-piece bonus is, again, max health, which is great. And then the 5-piece final bonus is when you deal damage, you apply minor lifesteal to your enemy for 8 seconds, healing you and your allies for 686 health every 1 second when damaging them. That can get pretty high, to be honest. So, alright, going over the setup. So we have the monster set here. We're going to go over traits and enchants. So here we have our monster set, medium helm, heavy shoulder. With this we have a tri-stat in the helm with an invigorating trait. The invigorating trait just gives you that little bit of extra magic, a stamina, health recovery. It really plays into the idea of like, hey, I got a tripod, it's going to increase my health or my stamina recovery and my magic recovery. But it's also going to boost my health recovery by a small amount, which will kind of alleviate some of the healing necessary from the healer. It kind of boosts their capabilities, is the way I look at it. Next up, we are using a reinforced heavy chest here. This will give you the max amount of resistance, so really good for that on this one piece. And again, tri-stat. And then on the legs, we are using a heavy legs with the tri-stat again and invigorating. Now, onto the smaller pieces, we are running 4 Divines pieces here with a light belt. So we do want that light belt crafted to give us that better amount of resistances with the medium helm, heavy chest, and then the heavy on the smaller pieces as well. On the boots, gloves, and shoulders with the belt being light. This gives us the maximum amount of resistance we can have. And then, of course, on the smaller pieces, we are going max health enchants. This is to kind of represent that this character is more of a tank than they are a damage dealer or a healer kind of thing. It just represents that. Moving on to onto the jewelry. Small piece. Onto the jewelry, we have 2 rings, tri-rune with weapon damage. This is to maximize our damage potential with some of our abilities. And the tri-rune is to increase our max health, magic, and stamina again. Very much like tri-stats, so it's really good for that. And then last but not least, we do have an infused necklace with mag recovery. This is just to maximize our magic recovery. Or I should say to improve our magic recovery. And then moving on to the weapons. Front bar, we do have a sword and shield, as you can see here. We have a Nirnhone sword with a weapon or a weakening enchant. This reduces weapon and spell damage to the enemies for 5 seconds. It does have a 5 second cooldown, so you can only keep this up every 10 seconds. But for 5 of those seconds, you do get that weakening. Next up, we do have the Undertaker shield. Tri-stat, sturdy. This maximizes our stats again, but it also gives us that little bit of extra block cost reduction, which I'll explain when I get to the CP, why it's important to use a sturdy piece here. Moving on to our final thing, our bow, which is infused with a weapon damage enchant. this is just to maximize our damage potential for when we want to get those faster clears in dungeons or arenas, so we can get through them quicker on normal, veteran, content clears, so you can get the perfect, imperfect type of weapons. Really good for that. And it's just really good overall for dungeon play. Alright, moving on to skills. Now, as always, I will tell you, unlock all your class skills. Mostly stamina based, since this build builds more towards stamina. So go with all the stamina skills you can, and then take all the passives as well for the thing. The reason for this is so this way you can maximize the use of your skills that your class has in the stamina pool, or for stamina reasons. Also, make sure you unlock all your weapon, one-handed sword and shield, and bow skills, so this way you have access to them for whatever situation you might be in, whether it's overland, dungeons, PvP, PvE, whatever reason. Armor. Light armor, you're going to go with the top 3 passives. Medium armor, top 2, bottom 1, and then heavy armor, you'll want to get all of them. Now, you don't have to take the ultimate or the active ability here, but I do like using Unstoppable Brute. It's a really good resistance buff, and it does cost stamina, so you're not like burning through magic as much. And it's kind of cool because you can swap a lot of things around, so you're using more like a mix of magic stamina abilities here, and I don't know, it kind of works out really well when you really get into it. Soul Magic, Soul Assault, Soul Trap. I would suggest using the Soul Trap. I don't know why it's not showing the morph that I chose for it, but yeah. All 3 passives here. Moving on to Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, and the Sigil Order. Again, take all the skills, active skills, and passives. Fighters Guild is going to be all stamina based. Mages Guild is all going to be magicka based, and the Sigil Order does have one magic or stamina based skill, that's Crushing Weapon. Everything else is magicka based because it is the Sigil Order. And then Undaunted, take all of the active abilities and the passives. And you don't have to take all these skills. These are just recommendations for like certain situational play. Like, do I need Spike Bone Shield for my group to synergize off of? Do I need Mystic Orb for synergy? Do I need Inner Beast so my group has synergy? It's looking at those different aspects. Alliance War, again, Warhorn, Vigor, and Razor Caltrops. Support, Replenishing Barrier, Efficient Purge, Stalwart Guard, and also make sure you unlock the Magic Aid if you do use any of these skills. It does boost your mag recovery by 10%. Dark Elf passives, really important again, and then of course Alchemy, Medicinal Use, Provisioning, Gourmet, and Connoisseur. Now, these are the skills I suggest using. You don't have to, again, but I do suggest using these on your bars. Starting with the first skill, we do have Pierce Armor. This is a great ability for reducing physical spell resistance. Not only does it apply minor breach, it applies major breach. So you get that you get both the penetration values, almost 9,000 or a little around 9,000 penetration, which is crazy, especially when you look at a dungeon or an arena and the mobs have an 18k resistance. There's 9,000 gone. It's really great, and it lasts for 15 seconds. It also taunts an enemy, and it does deal a little bit of damage. Next up, we do have our Ruinous Scythe. This basically deals physical damage, and it restores some of it back to you in health. On top of that, every third cast of this ability will set enemies off balance. You heal for X amount of health for each enemy hit, and an additional amount for each enemy, up to 5 times. The healing of this ability scales off your max health, which is great, being a tank. Then you have Unnerving Boneyard. This is how you apply Major Breach. It does do frost damage over 10 seconds. It also reduces the enemy's spell and physical resist. And then it consumes a corpse on cast to deal 50% more damage if you have a corpse out. Allies standing in the grave Boneyard can activate it for a synergy that deals frost damage to all enemies and healing you for the damage done. Then you have Ghostly Embrace. This is a great ability. I don't know why more people don't use it. But what it does is it makes skeletal hands come out of the ground. It reduces enemy movement speed by 30% for 7 seconds. It immobilizes them in the second area for 6 seconds. And it stuns in the final area for 5 seconds. So what it does is it creates 3 pools in front of you of skeletal hands that the first one reduces movement speed, the second one immobilizes, the third one stuns. Each patch also applies minor maim to the enemy's hit for 7 seconds. This is a great way to apply minor maim for your group. It applies to multiple mobs instead of just one. So really good for that. And that's the reason why we don't use Heroic Slash. Next up we have our Evil Hunter. This is a great ability because it gives us that Major Savagery at all times while it's slotted, and then on top of that you can use it to expose stealth enemies in PvE and PvP, and then when active it increases the damage of your Fighter's Guild, or the damage of your stamina costing Fighter's Guild abilities by 25%. What's funny is all Fighter's Guild abilities cost stamina. So we also have our Pestilence Colossus. Now this is a disease damage Colossus, and what it does is it comes out of the ground, it smashes the ground over 3 seconds, doing 3 hits, and the first hit deals X amount of damage, second hit deals a little bit more, and the final one deals a little bit more with the first, second, and third smash. And then dealing a damage applies major vulnerability to the enemy, increasing their damage taken by 10%. Onto the back bar, we have our bow abilities. Starting with the first one, Venom Arrow. This deals poison damage up front, poison damage all over time. It also has a chance to interrupt, set off balance, and stun an enemy who's casting an ability, whether it's magic or stamina ability. So, great for interrupting those ranged players. Great for interrupting ranged enemies in dungeons and in arenas. So, really good for that. And then we have our Arrow Barrage. And this is great for just dealing damage in an area of effect. It also keeps up our enchant of weapon spell damage. So, awesome for that. And then our next ability, and this is an interesting one. You don't have to use this. This is what I like to use, and this is Agony Totem. You basically summon this totem at your feet, and it gives you and your group minor protection to your allies for 11 seconds, reducing damage taken by 5%. After 2 seconds, the totem begins fearing nearby enemies every 2 seconds, causing them to cower in place for 4 seconds. And then it's also a synergy, so really good for that. It does magic damage, and it applies minor vulnerability. So not only can you apply major vulnerability, you can also apply minor vulnerability to your enemies that the people synergize off of it. Next ability we have is our Beckoning Armor, and this will be your buff for giving you physical and spell resist increase with the Major Resolve. It also, when active, while active, enemies that strike you from ranged attacks will be pulled to you once every 3 seconds. It's really awesome, and it does create a corpse on the end. So your Unnerving Boneyard will deal more damage because of it. Evil Hunter again to keep up that high crit, and then of course our final one, Ravenous Goliath. This is great for, like, what I call oh crap moments. It will heal you to max health and give you 30,000 health, and then while transform your light attacks restore health, and your fully charged heavy attacks restore even more health, and you deal magic damage to nearby enemies every second and heal for the amount of damage that you do. So if you're in what I say an oh crap situation, like let's say your group gets a practical wipe, your DPS go down, your healer goes down. You can go over and get your healer up, get one of your DPS up with the amount of time you have, 20 seconds, possibly the third person up, and no matter what, you're going to be dealing damage and healing, and you're going to have an insane amount of health anyways. So it's a really good for those moments, especially when doing arenas. So trust me, I've had that happen in Dragon Star many a times where I've had to resort to something like this. One of the other things I want to point out here before I move on, though, to the champion points is the fact that you do have heals. So you do have group heal support, but we do have that lifesteal on our armor, which is really good, and we also have the Ruinous Scythe, which is a great heal for us. So that's one of the reasons why you don't see me using a self-heal or anything, is because I've got all that built in so well. Alright, now moving on to our champion points, and of course we do use my standard setup. So 56 in the Ironclad, reducing direct damage by 20%, 20 into Spell Shield, increasing spell resist by 1900. We have 31 into Thick Skin, reducing damage over time by 13%, 43 into Hardy, reducing physical poison disease damage by 10%, 43 into Life Elemental Defender, reducing flame, frost, shock, and magic damage by 10%. Moving on over here, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of your damage shields by 16%, 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing your healing received by 5%, and 18 into Heavy Armor Focus, increasing your physical resistance by 1729 for wearing 5 or more pieces of heavy armor. Moving on to the next tree system, the green tree, we have 40 in the Warlord, reducing break free by 16%. We have 16 in a Sprinter, reducing sprint cost by 10%. 16 in a Bash Focus, reducing bash cost by 10%. And then moving on over here, we have 43 in Arcanus. This increases your mag recovery by 10%, and 75 in the Tenacity, increasing the magicka or stamina return of your fully charged heavy attacks. Moving on to the final green tree, we have 40 in the Tumbling, reducing dodge roll cost by 16%, and then 40 in the Shadow Ward, reducing your block cost by 16%. Remember when I said when I got to the CP, I'd explain why we put the Sturdy on our shield? That gives us an extra 4% block cost reduction. We actually get a 20% block cost reduction with this. That's why we don't use a lot of block costing stuff, is because of this. Moving on to the final tree, the blue tree, we have 43 in the Bless. This increases healing done by 10%. Remember, we get that extra 4% healing done with the armor. And then we have Elfborn, which increases critical damage and critical healing with magic abilities by 10%. 43 in Elemental Expert, increasing Flame, Frost, Shock, and magic damage by 10%. And then moving on to the middle one, we have 35 in Physical Weapon Expert. This basically increases your one-handed sword and shield and bow damage with light and heavy attacks by 20%. And then we have 40 in a Master in Arms, increasing your damage done with direct damage attacks by 16%. Moving on over here, we have 43 in the Mighty. This increases physical poison disease damage by 10%. 23 in the Precise Strikes, increasing your critical damage and critical healing with stamina abilities by 10%. And then we have 20 in the Thaumaturge, increasing your damage done with damage over time effects by 9%. Alright, now that I've shown you guys this, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the Depths of Malatar dungeon. This is a dungeon I like to use for just showing off how the build works and its activity in play. If you guys are wondering what armor type I'm wearing or motive I'm using the Worm Cult motive on everything. I'm also using the mace for the one-handed weapon, and I use the shield, of course, skin, the bow skin, the armor skin for heavy armor, and I think it looks great. So the reason I use Depths of Malatar, it's easy to get to the first boss encounter, but it gives you a good chance to see the build in action against trash mobs, or any mobs that you might face in the game in a group setting, like in their group, but also in a group setting for the game as well. So You're dead. I did want to do the ultimate so you can see what it looked like. Alright. Pop a potion. We're going into the first. Well, not the first. We're going into the boss encounter. And this boss has a lot of really unique mechanics, so keep an eye out for some of them. Lots of AoE type damage. And it's going to do some right now. Now let me show you this, because like I can stand here and block, and I just want you to see how much stamina it is costing me. Not very much, because of the fact that I do have that 20% heavy armor, or sword and shield also gives you a block cost reduction for damage. And you're noticing I'm also doing a lot of heavy attacks. I'm only blocking certain attacks. And I'm just doing this so I can show some of the capabilities of the build, so you can see for yourself like how much healing the build has. Now see how much stamina I just used, and I'm going to get it all back in like 4 hits, 4 heavy attacks. So I'm going to go ahead and let him kill me. Because if I hit him, I get health back. Which, by the way, if you want to see that real quick, the miner still actually heals 730 health. So, for me. So, for your allies, it's going to do a little bit around the same if they have the same kind of CP setup. So, really nice there. But that's pretty much it for the build, guys. That is the Dread Knight. Really fun build, really good for, like I said, fast group clears, or faster group clears in dungeons and in arenas. Really great for if you're farming, like, arena weapons for certain situations, whether it's the Maelstrom weapons, the Master weapons from Dragonstar, the new weapons from Malakarth's dungeon or arena, whatever. You can use this also in solo through those solo dungeons, and it works out really well. It's not really high damage. It's got great survivability with some damage capabilities. I would suggest if you are doing solo play to take a self-heal of some kind and maybe switching out one of the skills for it. Yeah. But that's pretty much it. That's the build. That's how it works. And that's its setup. So I hope you guys liked it. And you guys know what's coming next. So if you guys like this build, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me, you can subscribe. I'd also like you to recommend that you hit that the notification bell, to be notified when new videos come out. It not only helps my channel grow, it helps you guys see when the videos come, which is really good, so it helps both of us. And other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.